so thank you, Orla. My name is Mongey. I'm principal of Coláiste Bhaile Clár in Clare Galway in County Galway, and I'm going to pick up on some of the work that Rory has done, but focus in specifically on what we're doing in the classroom. I suppose just to give a little bit of context, and I know time is tight, so I'll speed through a number of these particular slides. But we're a newly established school, Greenfield school site. I only have first years of 162 first years. We're part of the same EU Folio project, PPOD pilot schools. All of our first years have netbooks and e-books across all core subjects. That's for this year, and it's highlighted in red, and none for the taster subjects. And I'll speak a little bit more about that later, and maybe duck down as I look out at the publishing companies outside. But just to give you a little bit of perspective on what we are about as a school. Our school vision, an innovative learning community committed to excellence. So both the students and the teachers in our school are learners, and we learn as much from the students as we do from each other as a community of teachers. And I suppose in trying to implement change in any school, for me what is very important as a school leader is to kind of show my vision and what I believe and what I would try and espouse that to my school staff. But I draw on a number of education experts. And for me, education and learning are social and interactive processes. So the student just shouldn't be sitting down there in the classroom taking in all of this information. And I believe the students thrive in an environment where they're allowed to experience and interact with the curriculum, not just to be passive receivers of the curriculum. And students should have the opportunity to take part in their own learning. So, and that's very much drawing on the work of John Dewey, and you know that John would have espoused that over 100 years ago. Talking about 21st century skills, and we read about it in all of the minister will talk about it, and it'll be in all of the literature that comes out from Microsoft, etc., and they're all detailed out. But what are they actually, and how do we actually implement those in the classroom? And that's what we're about in Clare Galway at the moment. So those particular skills, and I mean Owen, Tig and Ben that were up here from CUS earlier on, really demonstrated those skills of, you know, being actively involved in their own learning, taking a topic, going off, researching it, working together, collaborating. You know, so that's what we want to develop in our students in our school. I won't go into an awful lot of detail of specifically what we're doing, because Garrett and Lara are going to demonstrate later after lunch exactly how we do it. But I want to give you a little bit of the vision of why we're going down the route we're going down. So, in an awful lot of instances, and we learned from experience in Galway and Roscommon ETB 3 or 4 years ago, where the whole focus was on the technology itself. And on the device, and we just planted devices in schools. Massive mistake. Okay, so we've learned from that as we've moved along. You know, I have principals that come and speak to me all of the time, and they say, you know, we want to introduce the Surface or the iPad or the Android or whatever it be, and I ask them why, and invariably it's, well, the school up the road is doing it, and we have to be seen to do it, you know. And I said, no, well, really, what do you want to use it for? What are you going to use it for with your students? What are you trying to achieve? So you need to answer those questions first as teachers and principals in your school. Sit down, take a step back. All these devices are lovely, but if you just throw them into your school, you're going to lose out in the end. You need to take that step back. You need to decide exactly what am I going to use this for in the classroom with the students. And when you map out that for yourself in your school, then you're in a better position to go in there and say, can this device do this for me in this particular school? And if it can't, you move on to the device that does do it. So a lot of you will be familiar with this. Again, I'm going to skip through a lot of this. So how do we put what we want to do in our school into action? And we focus on the innovative teaching practices, because as a teacher, that's what we do every day. There's lots of things around school leadership and culture and education system change, and I know the Minister spoke a lot about that earlier on, and I hope he puts a little bit of weight behind what he's saying in terms of support to schools, etc., because it's quite hard to implement ICT in schools without a significant investment, whether it be funding, whether it be CPD, etc., all of that. But as a school leader, there's a certain amount that I can do to get us to a particular stage, and there's an awful lot that teachers can do in terms of their own practice. So, embrace technology, but to focus on the learning of students. Professional development of teachers is key, but also school leaders. Push beyond past experience, and going back to some of the points that Barry made earlier on, rows of students, the industrial age model or the April model. But even that picture he got to right at the very end, where the students were sitting in front of the computer screen, they were still in rows. The learning hadn't significantly changed. The e-book may have replaced the textbook, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, but has the actual teaching practice changed? You know, are the teachers in that situation just celebrating the digital page turn, you know? So if you have that fabulous looking app and the page just flips over, it looks absolutely fantastic and fabulous, but it hasn't changed teaching in any way in what you do. So that's what we are about. Need to reinvent the book itself. So develop it into a live, ever-changing resource that can be developed by individuals and suited to individuals' needs and added to and developed over time. It offers the promise of personalised learning if the e-book is developed and used correctly. Personal vision, I'm going to jump through some of this because no time. Okay, so into teaching and learning practices. In our school, to encourage stop teaching from the textbook and stop teaching from the e-book, and I'll speak a little bit about that. Point number 2, I won't talk an awful lot about it because Barry O'Sullivan covered that earlier on, and Rory is doing that as part of the EU Folio project in terms of develop a continuous assessment model where there's collaboration, editing, and it's an improving process. I firmly believe that yes, tests should be got rid of, and students should learn as they go along, and you show them where they can improve and how they can improve. It's not cheating, you're supporting them to improve. If I was a newspaper editor and someone gave me an article, I would tell them how to improve it, where they could enhance it before they'd publish it. So that's all part of 21st learning, that's all part of work in the workplace. Flip, blend the learning, create the hybrid class. So pre-teach, the use of Khan Academy. We have teachers in the school who are recording what they do on their tablet devices, on the interactive whiteboard, and embedding that into their actual teaching and learning resource that they've developed that we'll show in a minute. So they could say, for homework, go and do X, Y, and Z, but look at the 30 or 40-second clip on, it could be a particular part of maths, so it could be long division. Look at it the evening before, 30, 40 seconds. The kid will do it, and they come into school the following morning. The student is going to, or the teacher is going to teach that topic, but the kid has a little bit of prior learning. They've looked at a 30 or 40-second video the evening before. They can pause it, they can stop it, they can think about it, they can take their own time to take in what is potentially being taught. So there's opportunities there to pre-teach and to teach, but you also have that again where they can revise that evening when they go home in their own time to go back over if you've embedded little videos like that. Your class is your co-teacher, and we have lots of students coming from primary schools that can do projects like that in every single topic. First year in history, for example, and you give them particular topics to cover. Work in small groups, go home, research, investigate it, come into class and present it using PowerPoint to the class group. Take the workload off the teacher, let the students do some of the heavy lifting. Students are actively engaged in their own learning, they're creating their own content, but you're developing 21st learning skills with them around communication, collaboration, problem solving, research, investigation, looking up stuff on the internet where they're picking out the information that is most relevant to them and bringing it all together. And share resources with other teachers and borrow their ideas. So that's what we're trying to do in our school, and Rory alluded to, we're working with a number of other schools around a particular project. We're meeting this Saturday where the English teachers and the Irish teachers and the maths teachers from our schools will come together and speak and talk about how they can develop the particular learning resource that we are developing. So, I'm going to speak a little bit about stop teaching from the textbook and the e-book, and this is when I duck down and the publishing companies start to shoot at me. So previously, and the Minister alluded to it earlier on, this monopoly on knowledge. Previously the textbook, when I went to school, the only place I could get information from was the textbook and the Encyclopedia Britannica that was sitting at home in the house. There were the two sources of information. So the monopoly on knowledge was there within the textbook and the publishing companies. But now we have 100 meg broadband in our schools, recent one-to-one initiatives, and bring your own device to schools. they now provide students with unlimited access to an immense store of knowledge now. So that monopoly is now being chipped away at. There's no good reason to be restrained by the one-size-fits-all. So the one textbook that we're using for history, or maybe there's 3 or 4 publishers out there, but in general the content is the same. But that textbook has been used by all of the students in all of the classrooms throughout the country. It doesn't offer much opportunity there for differentiation and personalised learning. And I firmly believe that we should make learning a collaborative effort where students are responsible for gathering, evaluating, editing, and most importantly, kind of curating the information that's most relevant to them in terms of what they want to learn and what they want to be taught. So, the good, the bad, and the ugly of textbooks and e-books. So, textbooks, the good, they're reliable, they don't break down. Our biggest issues in terms of our ETB are the hardware issues, okay? And the e-books that sometimes don't work. Some publishers are far better than others. They're reusable, so the book rental scheme is more efficient. The bad, the heavy, expensive, can become outdated over time, revisions and updates. We all complain about it. Lack of differentiation and that old technology. I have old technology there, question mark. It still is good technology. E-books, the good, they're not heavy. They can be updated quickly, easily. An awful lot of them are getting far better in terms of animations and video content. The bad, and I've highlighted this, they are still too expensive. As a school leader, I think it's absolutely atrocious what's being charged for them in comparison to the actual textbook. I think they need to look at it totally different in terms of the way. At the end of the day, e-books, they're software. Maybe they should be looking at the pricing structure in the terms of the same way as we buy software into the school, but the individual price for an e-book for every student, you know, I just think that needs to be totally looked at. Lack of differentiation, and can be passive learning for students, but like I said, there are some animations, etc., that are being added to them. Textbooks, e-books can perpetuate old ideas that they should still drive the curriculum. For me, I'm a previous school inspector. I've been in lots of classrooms, and as a principal, for 6 years in different schools. And as a teacher myself, there was 2 crutches I had as a teacher, okay? The textbook and the terminal examination, okay? And for an awful lot of teachers, that is what can, not always, but can kind of drive. I have the crutch of the textbook there on the Monday morning. I know I can go to chapter 3 and I can start chapter 3 and I can tell them all to open it, page 47, and let's start from there, and there's our lesson. So there is a great crutch there for teachers. Sequence the learning activities, so chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, etc. Every child learns the same. They don't all learn the same. E-books, so I know Lara may present some examples where in her particular learning resource that she's developing, where she's put little voiceovers on certain words. She's attached pictures to certain words in the textbook, words like explain, define. So trying to bring in different styles of learning within the actual resource that she's developing. They can deprive students of primary source materials. There are some improvements in e-books, examples with external links, upper bloom learning, so moving higher up the scale there in terms of students creating knowledge, etc. Student-led learning, like the students, like I say, Owen, Tig and Ben that we had here, who they could go pick, those 3 guys could pick any topic on the primary curriculum, go back and teach it to their students. Do you think the students in that class will remember an awful lot more in some instances of what Tig and Ben did, or if they had an input into that teaching and learning, they might remember a little bit more? There is an example, I don't know if Lara's going to show it, in the geography resource that she's developed where they were doing, I'm not a geography teacher, but it was fold mountains, yes. So the student got 2 bits of paper, demonstrated with the 2 bits of paper how fold mountains were formed. He recorded it on his device, a little animated clip, 30 seconds long, but he embedded that into his e-book. So when he goes to revise, he will now remember, oh, I did that, and that's me involved in my own learning. It's a video I created. It's in my textbook. And it may assist in him remembering that come examination time again of a practical activity. Peer instruction, real-life experience, self-learning ability to evaluate. Okay. So, what are the alternatives? My belief is time to move to more collaborative learning. Students engage in active research, thorough evaluation of their sources, so teaching them skills if they are looking up stuff on the internet, to teach them the skills of how to pick the correct information for them. You know, that's a really good skill to develop with our students. Using primary source information, so going to the National Geographic website, going to the NASA website in science, pulling information from different places and creating their own resource. It offers differentiated instruction. Follow the syllabus or the subject specification rather than following the actual textbook. Instead of having textbook ebook imposing its own pathway. So, teacher-created materials, primary source materials, using them a lot more. Student-created materials, collaborative learning, using online videos, tutorials, podcasts, study guides. Effective study skills and note-taking. Our students, even though they are using Microsoft OneNote, our students still have their hardback copies for note-taking. We teach them study skills, we teach them revision skills. So it is important for them to be able to, you know, take a piece of information and bullet point it and create mind maps themselves. So they're still actively engaged in their teaching and learning. So it's not all about the IT. And they are very important skills to develop. So what I'm going to do is just flick out to what we've done. And hopefully Garrett has put up. Okay. And that one. Okay. Okay. Just shut them all down. Okay. Good on them. And this is one of our teachers, Garrett, who's a music teacher and a maths teacher and an IT whiz, who does most of our work. Okay, so we've gone down a similar route of Rory in School Conglish and Baltinglass. So we have a similar setup where we have our school community, where there's everything from drama clubs and trad groups and sport groups. We have our class sites where the individual students can go and pick up the teacher class sites. We have the staff room, we have subject hubs where subject teachers come together and create content. And then we have the RE portfolio group as well. So what I'm going to go, Mr. Callan Maths. Okay. Okay. All right. Push your maths. Okay. So within class, we've this set up, so students have access, called an ebook up there, but students have access to an ebook that the teacher initially has created, and Garrett and Lara are going to go through in more detail how they use it. They have access to documents that students can put up. But we have news feeds and forums there where students can engage. The teacher can write out what the homework is. If the students are struggling in the evening, they can write on the forum, engage with their peers within their class group if they have a particular question about something, or if the teacher is particularly active in the school, as sometimes Garrett is at 7 or 8 o'clock of an evening. He might answer a question for a student. Don't condone it, but he does it. But to give you an idea of what we're doing, so we're using Microsoft OneNote. And we looked at a whole variety of products. So we looked at Google Docs, we looked at everything. And it was important for us that the students would be able to access whatever we did at home without access to the internet. So for us, what sat best for us was using Office 365, Microsoft OneNote, where every change that the teacher makes can be easily and quickly updated once the student comes into the school and they log on to our wireless network. Their OneNote will automatically update if the teacher has made any changes, etc. So it is very simple in that the teachers are starting to create their own content. Now, this doesn't look as shiny and as fantastic as a textbook, okay? But this is content created for the teacher, for his group of students sitting in front of him, and they have total control over it. So we have first years at the moment. So the maths resource that Garrett is creating is for first year maths students only. It's the same in history and geography. So Lara, she's teaching geography and she's teaching particular topics and content. She's creating content and putting content up there in collaboration with students as well and embedding it within. That's of relevance to the first year students. And then when they progress into second year, she can add in additional content, etc. But Microsoft OneNote, if you've never used it, is structured so we can define out the chapters down using tabs. And then within each chapter, there's obviously sub-pages, and the teacher adds particular content with each one of those sub-page. But I'm just going to switch out. What all of our students do is they open it up on their desktop OneNote. So it opens up in Microsoft OneNote and Office 365, but then we ask them to open it up on their desktop as well. And once they open it up on their desktop, it automatically syncs to their local machine. So you see the layout where the chapters are across the top, down the right-hand side then are sub-pages. So the teacher can add in content. If they have a nice Surface Pro, they can write the annotated notes on top of the page. If something comes up in class with the students, they can decide to add in additional content to define it out a little bit more. On this particular one, Garrett has a video embedded in it. So you double click and there's a load of free apps out there where you can create the video, so the student can either watch that video the evening before, or like I say, watch it that evening. If he's used a PowerPoint presentation, they embed the PowerPoint presentation within it as well. So they don't have to go to a folder somewhere on the network. Everything is together in one place in one particular resource, and it's easily accessible by the students. And like I say, this is a resource that we can add to and develop over a period of time. In terms of our student engagement with it this year, we have our devices. We have ebooks, because newly established staff, I couldn't expect them day one to come in and prepare all of these lovely, fabulous notes, etc. So we have ebooks and we're working our way through it. But over the course of this year, all of the teachers are developing content with students. I know the science department in their scheme of work for first year have decided to take the month of May. They were going to revise first year content anyway. So in that revision of first year content, all the students will be assigned particular topics to research, investigate. The teachers have their own excellent notes anyway in PowerPoint and Word and a whole variety of things. But they're going to engage with the students to create a science resource for the first years coming in next year. And we're going to do that in partnership, like I say, with other schools. So not all the teachers in my school aren't carrying that big heavy load. They're working with their colleagues, they're working with colleagues in other schools, and they're working with the students to create the content. And we just feel in our school this gives us a perfect opportunity to work with students through their own learning. And the focus isn't on the device, it's on actual learning activities. So the instructional intelligence strategies that Rory spoke about, that they're working on with Barry Bennett, we're incorporating all of those into our teaching and learning and looking at our classroom teaching and our layouts and all of that as well, without focusing on the devices first. So I'd say if you were to take anything, certainly from our presentation, is to take a step back and decide for yourselves exactly what you want to achieve in your school. And only then will that inform you in terms of your one-to-one deployment or your bring your own device deployment in your school. For us, certainly it's about teaching and learning first, going back to what the teachers are actually going to do in the classroom with their students. So, Sinead, good morning.